Hello, crafty friends. This is Nancy Reynolds, and welcome to the International Crafters Video Hub. I am so honored to be among these wonderful crafters and help you find inspiration in our creations. This is the card we're going to make, or I'm going to make today with you. It is a Z-fold, a double Z-fold, and I'm going to use a little different designer series paper for the backing. But I think you're going to enjoy it. It's a really easy card to put together. Of course, the designer series paper with all of that lovely gold and sparkle just makes it a wonderful card. So here's our card with the envelope. Let's put it right here so we can keep it in mind. There are a lot of little pieces. And now I'm going to tell you that I had, just a few minutes ago, I had an accident. I managed to spill water on my crafting area. And as you know, when you do that, it does not play well with paper. So I just spent a minute or two recutting a few things, but I wanted to show you that I made a template for metric because I wanted to make sure it all worked. And you can tell that this is damp. But I thought with the template I wouldn't need to remake those or recut that. So I'm going to go over the card dimensions as I give it to you, but I want you to see that it really does work. Some of them seemed a little odd to me, but once I measured, part of it's because I like a very narrow margin, and I thought the black offset the gold so well. So what I started with was the large card that we're going to work from. I used Pebbled Path, so the imperial measurements, which is what I work in, is 4 1/4 by 11. That's 10.5 by 29.7 in metric centimeters. And I scored it at 2 3/4 inches and 5 1/2 inches, which is 7.4 and 14 point, oh my goodness, 9, I believe, centimeters. Now, on the metric, I did have to fudge that a little bit as I scored lightly and then I folded it and I pushed it into place. And one of the ways I do that is I use my scoreboard, or the scoring part of my trimmer, because, you know, I don't know about you, but sometimes I do not measure exactly perfectly. So for the 5 1/2, I just put it against the edge. Let's see if I can turn this so you can see it better. Down at the bottom corner, there are 2 edges, so I just push it in, make sure it lines up, and then I burnish. And for the 2 3/4 inch fold, let me get rid of that little piece of paper. I did much the same as I pushed that into the corner, made sure this was flat, and then folded it so it's in half. So that's what I would suggest you doing with the metric also, because there was just a little tiny bit of adjustment needed. Okay, there's our card base. And to that, let's go ahead and get this one put together. I have a black mat, which is 4 1/8 inch by 5 3/8 inches, or 10.2 by 14.5 centimeters. And this is for our large Z on the large side. Now, since I'm using such narrow borders, in fact, I can hardly even tell in the camera that there's a border there. But there is a little pebble path around it. So I'm going to use my Tombow liquid glue. And I clean off the tip here to make sure it comes out. And I'm going to put my glue on the back. And the reason I'm doing this is because with a narrow border, it's nice to have that just little bit of wiggle room to make sure I get it on correctly. I think that looks pretty good. And then I have 2 black mats for my other 2 sides pieces. This is 2 5/8 inch by 4 1/8 inch, or 7.1 by 10.2 centimeters. And you're going to cut 2 of these. So let's get these on. Now I will say that if you know who you're giving this to or what the occasion is, it would be a lot easier to write on the white piece while it's off the card. And I'll show you what I mean. All right, there's the second one. We'll just get this put on. And the cool thing about this is because the dimensions are about the same, it's just stepped down a size for the layering. If you get 3 sides lined up the way you like them, or where you want them to be, the 4th side pretty much takes care of itself. Now I've got designer series paper, and no matter how many times I wrote and rewrote this little note, I kept saying it was 2 1/4. See that one? This is 2 1/4 inches. This is what I kept writing down. This is not the right size. It's 2 1/2 inches by 4 inches, or 6.8 by 9.9 centimeters, and you need to cut 3. So I have got 3 cut correctly, and then just kind of look at them, see how this is a pattern that really isn't directional on its own. If I had had more paper, I got to show you that this was one of our papers last year that carried over. It is the Nature's Sweetness designer series paper. I have lots of scraps, and I have 1 full piece and 2 partial pieces of the 12 by 12. So I have really gotten a lot of use out of this. And I thought, oh, we're doing celebrations for our theme, and I thought that would be just great with that lovely gold. Now here's my white piece, and it's going to go right here. So that's what I mean. If you were going to, if you know what it's for, you could stamp it, you could write your little note, sign your name, and that would be perfect. Because it's going to be hard to write on once. It will be more difficult. It won't be impossible to put something on it. So let's go ahead, put our pieces down. I am actually going to turn around and recut the white piece because I just realized the piece I grabbed has a cut in it at the bottom. So 2 1/2 by 4. We'll get these 3 on, then I'll just turn around and quickly cut a piece. What I was going to say before I so rudely interrupted myself and changed my train of thought is that if you had a lot of designer series paper and you weren't piecing from odds and ends that you've got, you could make this kind of flow. Actually, this one almost would. No, it doesn't flow there. So that you could see the pattern across the 3. Cutting this right now before I forget what I'm doing. And once again saying 2 1/2 by 4 out loud to make sure I actually cut it with the correct measurement. This looks much better. Okay, we'll put this one on. See how quickly this goes together? I think a Z-fold is impressive to look at, and it looks much harder than it is. And I have always preferred to use tape runner on white because I think sometimes over time the glue will show through. Make sure I've got this in the right place. And I'm using Seal Plus, not because it's going to take extra hold to keep it in place, but because I am on a mission this year to love Seal Plus. I'm actually beginning to really like it, so I think we're okay. Looks like this one could have gone over a little bit more. Let's see if sometimes right after you put something on, you can actually peel it up. Maybe not perfectly, but no one's going to see what's underneath here. So let's readjust it. Give it a little more glue. Give myself a little bit less of a margin over on the left side. A little bit closer. I think that looks a little better centered. So there we are. There's our Z. We'll fold up like this. So let's take our second Z, which is smaller. This is 1.5 inches by 11. I didn't want to hide the paper, so I did make it a little smaller, or 3.7 by 29.7 centimeters. And it's scored exactly as your big card is. It's 2 3/8 inch. And it's 2 3/8 inch, which is 7.4 centimeters, and 5.5 inches, which would be 14.9 centimeters. And again, do that little trick, make sure it's all evened up. What we're going to do, this one goes on. The long part is in the front this time, to the left instead of the right. And there's how it folds. So we're just going to do a little decorating. Let's see. For the mats for the two smaller sides, it's 1 3/8 inch by 2 5/8 inch, or 3.4 by 7.2 centimeters. And you cut 2 of these because you have 2 spots for them to go. And the black, which is a little longer, it's still 1 3/8 inch centimeters wide, but it's 5 3/8 inches long, or 3.4 by 14.5 centimeters, and it will go on here. So let's go with, I don't know, it's a little smaller. It's easier to work with separately, I think. This is 1 1/4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, or 3.1 by 14.2 centimeters. It's another, more of that designer series paper. And let's put that on the black. And then I've got 2 smaller ones, 1 1/4 inches by 2 1/2 inches, or 3.1 by 6.7 centimeters. And we'll put that onto our black pieces. This needs to scrunch over just a little bit. I do like having a little bit of wiggle room. And some days I need it more than others. It looks like this is a day when I need more wiggle room. Okay, then we'll do the other one. You'll notice there's an interesting pattern on the back of this paper. I will find one and show you and tell you what I did to decorate. Because I did very little stamping. It's mostly designer series paper and just putting things together. Okay, we'll put this one on in our corner. Now, while this gives you a little bit of wiggle room, it also gives you, it takes a little time to dry. So we're going to put this on our large card in just a moment, and I will show you what I did. Because I didn't want it to be hard to get it on. So I started with the first panel. I wanted to go down towards the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over, and then I can see where I want to put the glue. And then I can put this on just like this, line it up. And I tend to like to just hold them against a flat surface, so I know they're lining up well. And now I'm just going to hold it for a moment while we chat. Let me see if I can find one-handed the picture of the paper that I used. And I believe there were 9 on the page. Let's see. Oh, look, I have a block. Let's put the block on it. And pull out. It is possible that I used all of those up, but I hope not. Nope, here's one. This is not a full picture. I've cut some off the bottom, but you'll see this lovely circle in pecan pie. And then the flower, the one I used was the vanilla bean. And all I did was I fussy cut. I just took my scissors and I went around it and fussy cut it out. And that's how I got my focal point. Now for this one, it's actually going to be pretty much totally flat. The whole thing covers and sits down, so I am just going to put my glue on and line it up. It should fit just about perfectly. Give it a little moment there. There we are. Our card is together. Put that down for just a moment so it can finish up while I pull out my other pieces and show you what I used. The Nested Essential Dies used the same paper, but on the opposite side with the Pebbled Path. And I used the largest die out of the Nested Essential Dies for that. And then I needed a sentiment, and so I thought congratulations would be good. But I didn't use it out of this set, although I could have. I used it out of the Lovely and Sweet. It's the matching set for the dies. They no longer come bundled, but you can buy them both separately. And so I used my congratulations. I stamped it in Versamarking and used our white embossing powder. And then I thought, oh, well, I could just, cut it. It would be a rectangle with maybe some slanted sides. And then I remembered that I had this set. This is the Wonderful Thoughts. And I found that this die fit it perfectly. And I cut it out with a die. So it's got a little style. That's what I was going for. And then with all the gold, I thought I needed gold leaves. I was pretty sure I needed gold leaves. So I remembered that Flowers of Beauty in the Unbound of Beauty bundle has these wonderful leaves. They don't coordinate with the stamp, but they cut out decorations. And so I got the leaves. So all I did was take and I put some of my tape runner on the back. I'm going to set it aside for just a moment. I'm going to set this aside for a moment. We're going to open up our card. And my I keep moving down. I apologize. My Nested Essential die is going to go right here. But here's what we need to keep in mind. We cannot have any glue on this section right here. So I'm just going to pull it down and know that I need to put glue on this section and a little bit here. So let's go ahead and do that. And you don't have to do the whole area because glue holds really well. And I'm going to put this down and line it up with my score line. And glue those down. Open this up and make sure that there's no glue there. So there we are. Isn't that pretty? Now with my focal point, it's going to be the vanilla bean flower. Isn't that cute? And I know that it's going to go about here. So let's put, I can't hang over. It can't hang over the edge of the card. And this one can go right about here. And that is, this one needs to go just a little bit straighter. This one, because I don't want it to fold or crease when I fold my card up, let's put it at a little different angle. And now it's too long, so we'll take it off again and move it down a little bit. And that to me looks perfect. It's going to fit in when it closes. And one thing I did, I know there's a lot of bulk to this card. And when I've got a lot of bulk on a card, a lot of times I don't use dimensionals. But I just thought that this could use a little dimension. So the whole circle at the bottom is going to be flat. It's going to be on the bottom here. So if I just go down and I keep it to this side and the bottom here, let's just do that. That's only 3. Can I do one more right here? Oh, that's close enough. So I'm just going to do that. I can always tuck one under if I need to. Now, as I looked at this, there was one other little thing I thought I could do to the flower. And this may surprise you. If you don't know me well, I love Wink of Stella. And if I've got a white flower, okay, let's be honest. If I see a flower anywhere, I pretty much Wink of Stella it. I would like to, it shows up nicely on a white flower, but it's also very nice on any flower. So I'm going to go over it twice just to make sure I've got a lot of sparkle. And I'm going to do the little vanilla pods. Because I can. As I say, I love Wink of Stella. I love it so much I have a lovely supply. You might even call me a Wink of Stella hoarder. So here's our card. It's almost finished. We need a little bling and we need to put on our sentiment. And so the sentiment I wanted to run on right about here. And I thought it would be really nice to take my mini dimensionals in black put one on one end, one on the other end. This is going to run down and adhere to the card because remember our focal point is raised, so we can use a little tape on it. Take our dimensional ends backings off and put our congratulations on. See how nice and flat and smooth that is? And then when it came to the bling, I have been admiring these and realized that I had actually bought them. These are the iridescent faceted gems, and I just think they're beautiful. They've got a lot of sparkle to them. You can pick up different colors. So, where is my Take Your Pick tool? Here it is. I like to use the putty end for Just warm it up a little bit with your fingers. And I think I'm using large ones because I'm going to put one here, and the other two are going to be on the Pebbled Path, right over here. And that, my friends, is our card. Pretty all the way through. You can still fold it flat and write your message, sign your name, stamp something, so you don't have to do that before you know where it's going. And let's see, we need an envelope. I will tell you that the envelope is what got the wettest in my little accident. So we're going to start with another envelope. I'm going to apologize for using an already been used sheet of scratch paper. It's been used a lot, but we can use it again. I'm going to pull out my Pebbled Path ink and my stamp block that we used as a weight. And I'm just going to ink up. See how that's doing. Looks good. I'm just going to ink it up and put it in the corner here. I like things angled, so we will angle it. And then I wanted one on the back, because for some reason I just absolutely love when flowers hang over the top of the card on the envelope. A little weird, but true. So there's our envelope. The ink is going to be closed up, and our card. So what do you think? Which one do you like best, I wonder? I like this one the best. I like this background, but I had so much of this left. That's why I made my prototype in this. And remember, all of those metric dimensions that I gave you have been tested, so they do fit. I will put the measurements in my description, so you don't have to write things down. And until I see you again for our next hop, let me say happy crafting. Thanks for joining.